Hey, look, we all know that Pilates equipment can make a class more challenging, but what if you don't have equipment? It's okay. You can still make a class more challenging by adding resistance. Wait, how do you add resistance if you don't have Pilates equipment? First, your imagination, which maybe sounds hokey, but hear me out. Your imagination is powerful. You can imagine the resistance as you're moving through an exercise. They do this in strength training too. This isn't a weird Pilates thing. When you're working out with weights, you can imagine a weight to be 50 pounds heavier than it is. In Pilates, you can do the same thing. You can pretend that it's not just air that you're pressing away, that it's water or honey or jello or whatever analogy works for your students, but something that's more full of resistance than just air. I like the water analogy because water can also be supportive, and most people have been in a pool or an ocean. They know what that feels like. They can imagine what that is and translate that for a Pilates class. But really, any analogy works, anything that creates resistance. If you have students that have been on Pilates equipment before, then they might remember what a spring felt like, or what that resistance felt like with the strap. You can use that. You can use their prior knowledge of what something else felt like and use that in a class. You can also use a magic circle, or if your students don't have magic circles, you can use a yoga block or a cushion or something that they can, something tactile that they can hold on to and press against. You can use other props. I'm not a huge believer in using too many props because then we're getting away from classical and turning it into something that's not Pilates. But there are certain circumstances where using a prop can be helpful for alignment or for resistance. You can also use things like a TRX. Now, again, that's not classical Pilates, but in some cases, it can help create that resistance or provide support for your client. Now, Joseph Pilates used himself as resistance before he started developing machines with springs and all of that. He would physically put his hands on someone's leg and press against. He created the Pilates apparatus in part so that he didn't have to do it anymore. But as a teacher, you can provide that resistance for your students if you're in an in-person class. If you're online, then you can use things like a magic circle, a yoga block, even a TRX in those cases where you need something tactile for your students. But the most important thing is that imagination. And again, it may sound silly, it may sound stupid, but early mat classes were taught by Joseph Pilates to students that he had taught in his studio. The mat classes were intended to be a portable version of the equipment classes, but those students knew what the equipment felt like. So they just translated that to the mat, used their imagination to create their own resistance and their own support for the alignment and the form of the exercise. So why not go old school? Do it the way that Joe did. Create your own resistance.